everyone, welcome back to recap of European Youth Chess Championship, which is played in Budva. My name is Sandra Djukic and I'm a woman international master. Each day we explore different parts of the tournament, from wild tactics to quiet positional battles, and today I'm here to bring you to some Rook Endgames. I know you were expecting that I will bring you through some wild tactics and something like a lot of sacrifices and some checkmates, but I decided to do Rook Endgames because I think Rook Endgames are very important, and also they can bring a lot of interesting moments. Let's start with first game which I choose, and this game is between just a second, is between Darius Javonski and Axel Kvaloy. I hope I pronounced good. If I didn't, sorry because of that. This is current position, and what we can say on first view on the position. So first, of course, most of young chess players will count material. So we can see that black has two pawns. On the other hand, at the board right now, white has three pawns. So basically, white is pawn up. What I like to say about rook endgames and endgames is that activity of kings is very important thing. Why? Because in endgames we have less pieces over the board than in mid games. That means that we can activate our king usually without being worried about some checkmate threats, but also we have less pieces on the board and we really need help of our king. So king is big part in order to convert, for example, advantage to win the game, but also to save the game. So at this current position, we can see that black's king is quite active. Actually, black's king is on perfect position because he is there to control these two pawns. On the other hand, white's king is still on the first rank. The other very important thing, and this is connected with rook endgames, is position of rooks on the board. Usually is very important to bring the rook on second, either seventh rank. On second rank if you are black, and on seventh rank if you are white, in order to cut your opponent's king. So at this position, black's rook is on perfect position, controlling second rank, but at the same time controlling this d6 pawn. On the other hand, white's rook is on a5. This is not great position, and I'm sure that white realized that while game was on, and he tried to do something with this rook and to make some tricky moves and threats. The most logical move was played by Axel, and that is move e3. Move e3 advances the pawn and threatens to give a check and to push pawn and to promote a queen. So white doesn't have a lot of options, as position is, let's say, completely winning for black. But on the other hand, black has to play very precise, and we will see soon why. White decided to play move rook a8 and to give up from this pawn, because, for example, if he played move c5, which looks very logical, to connect pawns and to try same thing to do which actually black wants to do, he would not be on time because f3 is coming, and after, for example, move rook a7, f2 check, and after king g2 move, rook d1, and the idea is to promote a queen, which would happen in next move. So timing is works better for black. Black is first one who advanced pawn. Actually, both pawns. This pawn is on on sixth rank. This pawn is on third rank, but this pawn um, is in better position as rook is here, and this king and rook, both of those pieces are controlling d6 pawn. e3, rook a8. At this position Axel could take here, but he decided to take to play king d7 instead of taking pawn on d6. And after this move, c5 move came, and then check, king g2, e2. So these two moves were forced moves, like rook d1 forced white's king to come to g2, and then e2 move, which threatens to promote a pawn in a queen by playing move e1. Now, White found a way to make the most unpleasant plan for Black, and Black had to play very precise to convert his advantage into win. So rook a7, and Black played king d8 move. King d8 move was played just to, I guess, to take some time, because after rook a8, king d7, rook a7, Black decided finally to go with king c6 move. After king c6, d7 move doesn't work because Black will just take this pawn, so White played the best move, and that is move rook c7. The only move for Black is king d5, since king cannot go to b6, either to b5. Idea of rook c7 is not just to give check, like, okay, I will give a check and then I will see what to do, I'm losing, let's give one check and probably I will resign. Actually, idea is deeper. So White wants to bring Black's king on d file. Why? Because once when Black's king is on d file, this rook doesn't control anymore d8 square, which is promoting square. And soon we will see why this moment of rook c7 was very important and like last hope for White. So rook e7 move, and now the most obvious move is just to promote a queen, but that would be huge mistake, which Axel didn't make. So promoting a queen, taking here, and okay, Black is rook up, but d7 is coming. So now we can see why rook c7 was such a kind of dangerous move, bringing the king on d file, and now rook d1 doesn't work because Black's king is on d file, and rook d1 would not do anything, would not control d8 square. On the other hand, rook is placed on e file, and rook e8 doesn't work, and Black cannot stop promoting all of White's pawn. So instead of promoting a queen, there is just one move which is winning here, and Axel found this move, and that is this brilliant move f3. It looks like, okay, Black is sacrificing a pawn, I can just take this pawn. If check, I will just take another pawn. And if Black promotes a queen, same thing. I take, Black takes, I push a pawn, Rook cannot come here. If Rook comes to d1, still same thing. It doesn't control d8. But basically idea was to move the king from second rank to third rank. So there is this intermediate move, intermediate check, and wherever king goes, for example, let's say g2, then rook f8, and this rook controls d8 square, and Black will just take all pawns and give checkmate. So White decided to play move after f3, king h2, and I guess this was last hope for White, because if e1 comes now, then rook e1, and again there is this move d7. The only difference is that now after the move f2 and promote the queen, I can just place move king e5, and just to be careful not to allow white to give me check and to take this pawn. Black has to play this position very very carefully and precisely, but it should be draw position. Of course, White played brilliant this whole game, but also end game. And after King H2, he just decided the simplest and the safest way to take the pawn on C5, again to open D file for a rook, but to have same threats. So after move King C5, Black played move D7, and this was again hope if Black push E1, of course, then rook e1 again, and if rook e1, then promote the queen, and there is option for rook d7, but then this position is a draw. I am sure that for white it was clear that black will not push e1, so after d7 black decided to play rook d7, and after rook d7 to promote a queen, and Axel won this game. Congratulations to Axel, really brilliant endgame. Let's go to another endgame. From this position you see right now, you cannot really see that it's a rook endgame, but very soon we will enter to it. This was actually a critical position where black made huge mistake by playing move queen e6. Queen e6 looks like a very logical move, since this queen protects the rook on c8, and for example, if white takes here, black would take here, then pawns are connected, pawn on d5 is well protected, and after taking this pawn on c6 soon, black would be two pawns up, and black would have much better position, probably winning position. On the other hand, if white decide to move queen to a7, then black would just take this pawn, and again black would be much better at this position. I think that black overlooked the move which white played, because it's kind of intermediate move. Usually when we offer some trade, we're calculating if opponent takes, then I take, and okay, if opponent doesn't accept this trade and he moves the piece, then we play this. But sometimes we forget about intermediate moves, and that's move rook e3. Really fantastic move. So basically it forced black to take the queen on d7, because if queen goes to f6, then rook on c8 is for free. So black was forced to take a queen, take, and then the only move for black is rook f8, since if rook comes here, either here, let's just show, then rook e8, take, and we promote the queen. So the only move for black is rook f8. After rook f8, the best move for white, rook e8, again threatens to take on f8 and to promote the queen, or to promote queen immediately. Black found the only move, and that's move bishop f8, and now it looks like, okay, I cover this square d8, and I'm ready just to push my pawn and to promote my pawn in queen. So this is the moment where we should take a look to all of our pieces. For example, if we have this position with white pieces, so we can say, okay, we did the maximum with the pawn, we will not push because it would be for free. I like my rook on 8th rank, and this rook will help me in promotion of this pawn. There is bishop on g2, but basically I cannot really use my bishop right now. And okay, I have one more rook. What I should do with my rook? I should bring my rook on the 8 square to make more pressure on f8, but also to help in promotion of this pawn. So white played move rook c1, and idea is obvious, idea is rook c8. Black pushed the pawn to b3, since black probably thought that After rook c8 and b2, maybe he will even win a game because he threatens to promote the queen, and not just to promote the queen but to promote the queen with a check, which is very important and very unpleasant once when you realize this. Calculation of white was perfect and brilliant, so white took rook on f8 and now king g7 move. After the move king g7, we can also realize if something happened like rook h8 and then rook g8, it would be checkmate. So it's interesting once when you're white, just to realize that this king doesn't have any free square to go forward with the king. Maybe it will be important in some of possible variations and calculations. Rook g8 check, king h7, and then one more brilliant move, rook h8. Why I mentioned the position of the king and position of these three pieces? Because if now king g7, then this move would give checkmate rook g8. So black is forced to take this rook. Basically, white is sacrificing one rook in order to distract the bishop from f8 square and to promote the queen. It doesn't look so dangerous because it is black's turn, and also black promotes a queen with a check. So basically, if we look right now at the position and material, black is pawn up, black promoted the queen, gave a check, white is forced to play with the king, either with the bishop, and then it is black's turn. But bad news for black is that after bishop f1, black doesn't have any good move to stop checkmate. So basically there are threats of two checkmates. One is queen g8 and the other one is taking the bishop on h8. So for example, if queen b2, then queen g8 is checkmate, and if black moves the bishop to g7, that's more logical, then queen g8 would be a checkmate. So after bishop f1 move, black resigned the game. I hope you liked these two endgames, and I will prepare more of it. If you like, you can subscribe, you can give comments, and you can share your ideas for recaps in future. Thank you very much.